Middle-earth role-playing fans, welcome back. I'm Roman Daisel. I've been away for a while. I've had a lot of things happen lately. Transmission went in my car, which is never a good thing. And I've been using a loaner vehicle for the past 2 weeks. I also had to take the wife to Buffalo. And then last weekend I went skiing up at Blue Mountain in Collingwood with the high school kids, just so I could go skiing for free. And then I went to Toronto the very next day, so been really busy. But anyway, today we're going to be looking at The River Running 8114, the series. This was released in 1992. Can't remember what I paid for it. I remember when I bought it, I read through it. It was okay when I read through it, but I never used it in an adventure play. There was always better modules, I thought, or other areas that we explored. So this book does take in the area of Dorwinion and the River Running, which flows all the way from Erebor down through Long Lake and down eventually to the Sea of Ruin. What's interesting about this one is it's a lot thicker book, and there are 6 adventures. I never used this book. I never played with it. So rereading it again is kind of interesting, and we'll see why. But anyway, let's check it out. So here we are, looking at the cover of The River Running. And you can see that the artwork is not quite Agnes McBride type. It's by a guy named Elmore, who made his back in 88. So they're using someone else's artwork. I don't think it matches the area that they're working with, the River Running, unless you put it all the way up in the Iron Hills, maybe Lonely Mountain, but definitely not in Dorwinion. And it's got a werewolf, and werewolves aren't really, they're more of a first age Tolkien thing, but not a third age Tolkien thing. So you flip it over and it gives you the description of what you can find inside. Nothing new there. Nothing on the front cover. Designer notes. So table of contents, guidelines, handling play, adapting module. They give you the standard 18 player characters. They give you an introduction into the history, politics, culture, people, economics, and geography. I find that this was a very interesting area, Dorwinion, because Tolkien describes them mostly as a place where they make wine. So vineyards, wineries, and they traded them far and wide. King Thranduil was particularly fond of the heady wines of Dorwinion, which could get an elf drunk, as shown in The Hobbit. But other than that, Tolkien doesn't really go too far into detail about Dorwinion. It looks like it would be an interesting place. It was just on the edge of Tolkien's world of Northwest Middle-earth, near the Sea of Ruin, and Merp puts them as a Northman people that probably were influenced by the Easterlings, and the river running from all the way from Erebor all down to the Sea of Ruin is their trade network. So they're trading with elves, they trade with dwarves, they trade with the men of Long Lake, the Easterlings, probably the Gondorians, because this is a 1640 book, so the Gondorian province of Dorwinion is right there. The Northmen tribes or principalities, or the kingdom of Rovania at the time, they were trading with that. Remember, Erebor doesn't exist at this time. The dwarves of Moria are still there, so they might have traded long distance with them. They definitely would have traded with any dwarves of the Iron Hills. Now, Dorwinion itself has a there was my water heater, a dwarven population in the mountains of Rune. I think they're Theloris folk, the 5th house, according to Merp. And there's also the Tor Roman, or the Forest of Rune. So I do wish Tolkien had explored more of that. The Easterlings, Merp breaks it down into 3 tribes: Sagoth, Logoth, and Astriags to the south. You got Mordor there too. So it would be an interesting place. I wish Tolkien had done more. So now we get into the first real adventure. The corruption of the Dorannon Wood. In a small village of Cardavan, which has mostly some wineries around it, and some wine merchants, one of the young members of a wine family decides to become evil, travels to Dol Guldur, and he's sent back with some giant spider eggs, as well as some spells to wake up the trees to make Hjorns, and some special vines from Mirkwood Forest. So he's given all this stuff at a young age, and he's off to his village to make the Dorwinion, or winewood it's called, into an evil place. So what happens? The forest starts getting darker, small animals start disappearing, and soon small game does too as well. And then eventually children start to disappear. One young woman disappears looking for her lost child, and the townsfolk, the villagers, are searching for them through the woods but can't find anything, but get all nervous and spooked. Then finally a merchant disappears, and some rivermen that he was to employ came looking for him. So this is what you have to find out in this adventure. You get some NPCs, some will help you, some will not. There's one that's a member of the Cult of Long Knives. She will not be fond of you. Does a nice layout of the Cardavan. You can find where the merchant is and where the great dead tree where you'll find the kids. Gives a description of the town and the terrain, the Dorwinion wood. Now the great dead tree is interesting because it looks like a huge tree that's dead and hollowed out inside. And this is where the person you're looking for is. He uses the kids as experiments, and the spiders, he teaches the spiders how to wrap up their victims and poison them, which will never go well because they will turn on him eventually when they get too big. He's not exactly Hagrid. So the young mother, Cadilly, she's tied up in a cocoon. She's still alive. Now the children are in, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 are in up higher on the ceiling, and they might or might not be alive depending on how things go. The merchant himself, he is tied up, still alive, but weak. 3 spiderlings are deciding what to do with him. The other 24 are back in around the great dead tree. So the task is obviously to join the adventure to look for a missing merchant or missing kids. You can either join the main group with the rivermen or go out on your own. It's up to you. Aids, obstacles, obviously spiderlings are going to be a huge obstacle. Maybe the odd Huron. And the young fool that's evil that you're looking for, he could be a problem. More likely he needs a good ass whooping before you execute him. This is what I like. This is different. They got tables and notes. So encounters in the hollow, you can roll to see how many spiders are available around the hollow and tree. All the way up from 12 to 24. These aren't full-grown spiders, so they shouldn't be that big of a... They're going to be a problem, but not a great problem. Initial encounters roll every 5 rounds. So if you're a party that's quiet and good at stealth, you're not going to meet much. But if you got somebody who can't keep his mouth shut, or that one idiot that always seems to trip over roots or breaks the branches, or for the hell of it picks up a stick, thinks it's a spear, and starts swinging it around, breaking it on trees, you're going to encounter something faster. You got initial encounters in the hollow, initial encounter reinforcements, Legos, who's the young stupid idiot that brought the spiders in, his location, and then random locations. Beast table, you can get wolves, giants, bats, Hurons, or giant spiders. The spiders are only a level 3, so they're not exactly hard to kill. And then you have the NPC table. All in all, it's actually a pretty good adventure. It's great for beginners. I never played it, so I don't know how it'll work, but I do like how they have the encounters set out better. So, good adventure for levels 1 and 2 people to get some experience points before tackling the next one, which is a hijacked wine barge. The story is, it talks about trading up and down the Celduin River and the challenges you might face there and the history of the trade. A Uruk warrior, who's actually smarter than your average orc, he figured out a way to trap a wine barge, and by stringing a rope across the narrows around 2 big trees on either side, and waited for a barge to come upriver. And once they got entangled in the rope, him and his buddies had a raft, and they pulled from upstream downstream while the boat's going upstream, so they were able to get there quickly before the wine barge decided to cut the ropes. And then they took over the barge. The captain of the barge, who's also the merchant, didn't go down with his ship, but instead somehow got himself overboard and washed downstream to a local village of Karatsurga. Needs help getting his wine barge back. Good thing he wasn't on the Titanic. You got your NPCs. One will be of great help. One will want to help, and lead the party, but is not a good leader. He'll make more of a mess. You have a courtesan who is also a member of the cult of long knives. She is not a good person, and she uses her position to blackmail the local residents. Or you have a Cinda elf visiting who's on a mission from Thranduil. He's a riverboat captain for Thranduil. He's heading for the Forest of Rune to talk to some of his kinfolk, because there are elves there. And you also have 3 dwarves who are looking for orcs to crack, but they don't like the Cinda elf. So it gives a description of the Narrows. You see where the orcs have waiting. Their little rope trap. Boat comes up, gets stuck. They come down. The boat is stuck on a mud bank. Talks about the orc, and it gives a description of the town itself. I like this map. It's pretty cool. Tasks, starting players, aids and obstacles. Same as always. Rewards. Now this is interesting with the rewards. We'll get to that in a minute. The encounter tables again. Day and night encounters at Karadsurga, because that one courtesan, she's going to try and hamper any party that goes looking for the wine barge. There's an elapsed time effects chart. So if you start right away, you have a better chance of rescuing some crewmen. And depending what you roll, you can find how many are wounded, dead, or captive. And the Urukai capabilities, A, B, C, D, E, F, there's a whole bunch of them. So wounded crew members, roll depending how badly they're hurt. Captive crew members, roll again 1 to 10, they're playing dead on the deck. 91 to 100 is tied tight, dropped overboard into the river, exhausted but alive. So some of the crew members are alive, you want to rescue them. The Urukai states, so if they're state A, 2 are going to be dead, 3 are going to be mildly drunk, 5 are drunk, and 10% of the treasure is found, 25% of the cargo is smashed. If they're in an H state, two of the Urukai are dead, 1 is overboard, none are drunk, either mildly or heavily drunk, and none are hungover. 90% found treasure, and 90% of the cargo is smashed, which is not what the merchant wants. You have the capabilities of the Urukai. If they're in their state, they're drunk, mildly drunk, or hungover, it'll affect how they fight. So that's something new. I like that. That would be something to bring over to other books, other adventures. And then, of course, everything depends on what happens for your reward. The most you can get is 200 gold pieces, and that is if no crew members are dead, only 1 to 2 are wounded, treasures recovered, yes, orcs are killed, how many of them, and how much of the cargo is damaged. The least you can get is 75 gold pieces, which means 3 to 4 crew members are dead, 1 to 4 are wounded, and 40 to 50% of the cargo is damaged. Tracking, if you need to track them, and then the NPCs. So that is actually, I wish I'd played that adventure. That sounds like fun. That sounds like a fun adventure. Again, you don't need to be too high of a level person. Level 1 to 3 would be great. Get some valuable experience to tackle the next one. Adventure 3 is Gargoyles of Herod's Ruin. So the small town of Carfus sits on the north folk of the Men Ronin, and there's a ruined tower nearby. Unknowns to them, some magical creatures that were created in Dol Guldur have escaped Dol Guldur because they hated it and have set up in a local tower. These were designed as weapons and are very dangerous. Now, gargoyles are something that does not happen in Tolkien's world. This is a merp thing, an Iron Crown thing. The closest Tolkien ever gets to gargoyles is the Pukel men up in Dunharrow, and from the First Age, the Stone, or the Watchers in Stone would be the closest thing you find to gargoyles in Tolkien's world. Now also their orcs, some lesser orcs have taken over the tower too in the bottom sections and are sharing it with the gargoyles. And then of course they start wreaking havoc in the countryside. So it gives you a legend, a tale, and you go to the NPCs of the gargoyles. There are 5 of them. Claws of Horror. So they're made from something the necromancer has created. And you see a picture of what these guys look like. They all look differently, and they all have different attributes. One's called the Warrior, the other's the Tracker, one is the Conjurer, the Hider, and the Talker. The Talker can mimic people perfectly, which will make things difficult. They are ferocious and will definitely rip you to pieces. You have the Orcs in the lower levels. and their leader. And then you go to the townsfolk. One guy's gonna want to get rid of this thing. Another guy doesn't know what he's dealing with, but knows that something's not right. So you got the terrain of the town. Finally, I'll shut off. So you have two towns really. One's like a river establishment for the boats. You got a track going through the forest and to get to the town. And you see the ruin of Herodruin in the Arkran forest. Gives a description of what you're going to find in the town on the far bank. The ruins of Herodruin. It's not a big place. It's only 3 levels. Description of the forest itself, and finally you go to the citadel of Herodruin. You're going to find everything where the orcs are staying and where the gargoyles are hiding out. They have their own nest or room, so to speak. The orcs know something is creepy about the place, but the gargoyles haven't shown themselves to orcs because they don't really like orcs either. They're kind of afraid of them. The task is obviously to investigate the strange things that have been going on, why people are getting killed, especially why animals have been disappearing. So the town's going to ask you to help out. You're starting the players, the aids, the obstacles, and the rewards. 2 silver pieces to each soldier who participates in a successful operation against Herodruin. So they know that something's in Herodruin. They just want to smoke it out. They think it's orcs or something more dangerous. Again, you get your encounter tables. So daylight encounter table and nighttime encounter table. And the gargoyle location at Herodruin is in there. So these are, and then finally the NPC table. The gargoyles are all level from 6 to 8. So for this adventure, you want to be a mid-level party from 3 to 5 at least. And what do I think? This adventure is not, like, it's more dangerous for sure, but it's not something I particularly would care for. Simply because they're gargoyles and it doesn't happen in Tolkien's world. So this adventure is not, it's one of those moments. Alright, the 4th adventure is called The Carnage at Forodim. So it gives a description of the area pretty close to the east bight of Rovania, just below the river Celduin. And it talks about the ruins of Forodim, which is a small village or town not too far from Dorwinion itself. It's been sacked by a bunch of orcs, and they've taken captives. Now, on their way to taking these captives back to Dol Guldur, some survivors managed to get word to the elves, and the elves come down looking for them. An elven scouting party. The elven scouting party finds the orcs on the open plain and starts harassing them and managed to rescue a few of the prisoners. But they were only able to slow the orcs' advance a couple of times. So the idea is the elves need help in stopping the orcs and saving the prisoners. So the NPCs, you got the elves and some young Dorwinion fighters who are pretty young. You have the orc tribe, led by the impressive Britivan Yuruk, known to his followers as Dolchrist, Head Cleaver, or the Reaper, depending. You have the terrain, the roads and trails, the plains, and then the orcs are go into a canyon because they think they're being pursued, and they will make a stand there. They push the captives at the end of a blind canyon, guarded by some wargs, and then they go take defensive positions ready to ambush whoever's coming. So it talks about a typical canyon, and it gives the layout. The task, obviously, you want to join the group and try and rescue these people. Starting the players, aids, rewards. Not much in terms of rewards, but it'll look good on your resume. Again, you have encounter table. So you might find them on the open road, on the plain or the open road, the men foreman. The cliffs on the plain or near Strayhold. Chase day or night, chase and movement, and combat. And this one gives it the chase chart. So Forodim is way up on the Saranan. Now this one doesn't really, whoever made this map didn't look at the main Middle-earth campaign map, because they have the Donu River and the Arduga River. So Donu is to the north, but if you look at the regional map, you see the Arduga is to the north and the Donu is to the south, and they're nowhere near Mirkwood Forest. You know, that's a long way. And Strayhold is down here. That's where they're making for. So the map is quite wrong in how it's portrayed. But anyway, you can use it. Just change the name of things. So I like how they give that. And where you can try and ambush them. You have the Reaper's dirty tricks. So lay out traps and stuff. And then you get the beast table. So you have wargs, wolves, and whatnot. Then you get an NPC table. As well as the orcs. There's 14 orc warriors plus the orc leader and 4 warg riders. So it's not exactly a big orcish party. And there won't be a lot of captives in that sense. So this, again, this is for a mid-level party. Anywhere from 3 to 5. Can easily take these guys out. As far as an adventure goes, I don't like the fact they screwed up the map. And while the chase scene seems like a pretty cool idea, a getaway chase scene, but it's not as good as the first 2 adventures. Then you get the Wounded Drake. So you're at the end of the Thirsty Camel and you hear a story about a drake that's been wounded and hiding in the local area. Your NPCs again, and a description of the great worm in the ice caves is Eladran the Frigid. And he's not as wounded as people think, as he was tossed out of his hole by a younger worm. So he's been drifting down from the Grey Mountains down here. You got the terrain, a pretty nice map of the region. A Pardfan, and it's right on the Celduin and Athorn River. Gives descriptions of the town, the trek northward, the ice cave itself, and a layout of what you're going to find. Task, obviously, killing a dragon gives you lots of experience points, and you can find probably lots of treasure, maybe, if he's been in the region for a while. Aids, the people are going to give you lots of stuff for free, or at a discount price. The obstacles, obviously, Eladran the Frigid is the biggest obstacle. And the rewards you're going to get based on the Drake's hide and horn, plus the stuff he's already stolen. You're looking at about 75,000 gold pieces. So this is the payday. You're in for a big payday if you can kill this guy. So there's an encounter table. Remember, the killing of a dragon usually brings out the worst in people. And also brings in a lot of unwelcome attention. Especially no matter how big or small the dragon is. There's always rumors of a horde. So you get your encounter table, whether in Pardfan, the Athorn Valley, or in the Iron Hills. So this is further north of Dorwinion. The dangers of dealing with the dragon in the surrounding area. You have a table for failed maneuvers on approach and entrance, and chance that Eladran is truly asleep. Eladran's health, severity of crush criticals. You got man-sized adventures eaten bonus. Tracking speed, currents. So there's a lot of little variables in this with the dragon. And then you have your NPC table. The dragon itself. So unfortunately, it gives you the NPC there, but doesn't give you what level the dragon is. They missed out. They completely whiffed on that one. So the idea of going after a dragon near the Iron Hills is actually could be fun. Definitely worth it. The problem, you don't know the level of the dragon. He's supposed to be a millennium old. So at least 1,000 years old. Could cause a problem. This adventure would be for a higher level party. You want to be in the 7 to 10 range. Level 3 to 5 is not going to work, but it could be fun. Now the last adventure is called the Man-Wolf of Galgorin, and this time, kind of like the idea with the Beorns, you got a guy who can turn into a wolf. So in the village of Galgorin, there's now in the central Dorwinion, it's a peaceful community of farmers and whatnot. Grapes are grown. Yep. Now the peace has been shattered by what can only be as wolves at the border. Wolf attacks. Something's killing the local dogs and also starting to get at farms. Giant wolves loose in the countryside. So you got the NPCs of the town of Galgorin. And for some reason they give you a picture of the dragon that you're supposed to face in the last adventure. You got a guy calling himself the Beastmaster. You got a terrain of Galgorin itself. So it's quite a large farming town, undefended of course. Gives lots of layout, lots of descriptions of the area, the vineyard. So you got a vineyard. That's pretty good. I like that one. And it also gives the person you're looking for is called Krulla Condretta, who was bitten by a largest wolf he had ever seen. In addition to its enormous height, only slightly less than his own warhorse. So this guy's been turning into a werewolf. It's kind of like a werewolf in Paris. Or a werewolf in London. Oh, werewolves London. Ow. So the werewolf himself lives in a vineyard, so he doesn't know what's going on. You have to, and he's on his farm, so it gives a description of his farm, and that's it. The task is to figure out what's going on, what's killing livestock and dogs and causing mischief in the town, and track it down and kill it. Unfortunately, the guy you want to kill is not a bad guy per se in his normal form. It's when he becomes a wolf that he becomes a problem. So you can get some aids, the obstacles, obviously finding out who's doing it. So a tracker would be the best thing. Rewards, not much you can gain from this. You might, if you kill him, maybe you'll get the vineyard, the estate. That'd be kind of cool. Encounter table, so in daytime encounters, Gargoyles, countryside, forest approaching. You're not going to find much during the day. It's at night when things get a little more frantic. So you got nighttime encounters, which you encounter stuff near Gargoyles, the countryside, or the forest path approaching Cool's farm. Whether he's a man, wolf, man form. Composition of the wolf pack. So there is a wolf pack he's been gathering for some reason. Random wolves. Infection. If you get bit by any of them, there's an infection table. Transformation. What's going to happen? Special magical spells that can be used, and then finally a beast table. Cruella is a man. He's a level 9 because he's a fighter, and man wolf, he's also a 9, but he's more dangerous. So this adventure is, again, werewolves aren't really a thing in Tolkien's world, and the 6th adventure kind of ties in, I guess, with the cover art, more or less. This adventure could be fun. I don't know. It's different, that's for sure. Next, you get doing business in Dorwinion, obtaining a wine license, other rewards, modifications for accomplishments. So if you do all 6 adventures, you get all these. There's a list of things you get. Other rewards, big prizes, rewards and contracts, persuasion, wine business, mileage and guard costs for things, profit by land, profit by water, varieties, years and vintage. So it gives you all the stuff you want to be able to become a wine merchant and do stuff. That's interesting. Then we finally have a master beast table and a bigger encounter table, so if you want to do other adventures in this region, and depending where you are. Herb table, a master military table, so you want to fight the Astraegs. You can find Dunedain, Logath, Sagoth, the Variags, some dwarves. And then a description of what else you can buy. And that's The River Running. Alright, so that was my quick review of The River Running. It's too long of a book to go into a lot of detail. The first time I tried making this video, it was like going to be 45 minutes long if I went through like I do the other ones. So I had to whittle it down and go through the adventures really fast. I thought the book had potential. I really do. Some of the adventures were pretty good. Others not so much. I wasn't a big fan of the gargoyle thing or the werewolf idea. I like the orc ambush on the river, and the spiderling thing, you can play with it. It would make a good first adventure. And the chase scene was okay, except for they really screwed up on the map. So continuity problems there. Overall, though, it should have been a good adventure module. I'm actually sad I didn't play it. That is the last of the adventure modules. Anyone who has this book and played with it, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been Roman Daisel. I am out of here.